Women don't choose men, they choose mirrors. In my years breaking down suspects in dimly lit rooms, I learned one thing. People don't act on logic, they act on what reflects their deepest, unspoken needs. A woman's attraction isn't about your resume or your charm. It's about what you amplify in her unconscious. She's not looking for a partner, she's looking for a projection of her survival instincts, her wounds, her chaos. And if you don't understand the mirror you're holding, you'll think her choices are about you. They're not. I once interrogated a man who swore his wife left him for a better guy. But when I dug into her patterns, her childhood, her father's absence, her mother's control, it was clear she didn't leave for love. She left for a man who mirrored the chaos. She was trained to call home. Her new guy wasn't richer or kinder. He was a louder echo of her unresolved pain. Ask yourself, what mirror are you holding? Are you reflecting her strength or her scars? Because she'll always choose the one that feels most familiar, even if it burns her alive. The feminine mind is a battlefield, not a fairy tale. Freud saw it, and I've seen it. 2 decades in interrogation rooms taught me that women don't crave peace. They crave resolution. Her emotions clash like armies, the ID demanding raw power, the superego preaching restraint, and the ego scrambling to keep her sane. She might tell you she wants stability, but watch her actions. I had a case once, a woman who swore she loved her loyal husband, yet she kept meeting a drifter who offered nothing but danger. Why? Because her ID wasn't looking for a mortgage, it was looking for a storm. Her husband's kindness felt like weakness. The drifter's unpredictability felt like strength. She wasn't confused. She was caught in a war between what she was taught to want and what her biology demanded. When she tests you, when she pushes and pulls, it's not love she's measuring, it's your ability to stand in her chaos without flinching. Can you hold the line when her emotions rage, or will you crumble, begging for her approval? The answer decides whether she respects you or discards you. Your obsession with her is a trap you built yourself. As a detective, I learned to spot pattern suspects who chased their own destruction, not because they wanted to lose, but because they didn't know they were running toward it. Men do this with women. You see her beauty, her mystery, her distance, and you think she's the prize. But Freud would tell you that's not attraction, it's projection. You're not chasing her, you're chasing the ghost of a wound you've carried since childhood. Maybe your mother withheld love, or your father taught you worth was earned through struggle. So when she goes cold, when she ignores your texts but watches your stories, your brain lights up, not because she's special, but because her absence feels like home. I saw it in a client, a man who begged his girlfriend to stay, not realizing her detachment mirrored his mother's neglect. He wasn't in love. He was addicted to the pain of trying to prove himself. Stop, ask yourself, why does her distance feel so familiar? The answer isn't in her, it's in you. Her silence isn't rejection, it's a signal flare. In my line of work, silence was never empty, it was loaded with intent. A suspect's refusal to speak wasn't cowardice, it was strategy. Women do the same. When she doesn't respond, when she pulls back after pulling you in, it's not disinterest, it's a test of your frame. Her unconscious is watching. Will you chase, plead, unravel, or will you stand firm, unmoved by her withdrawal? I once worked a case where a woman ghosted her fiancé after he proposed. He thought she hated him, but when I interviewed her, her silence wasn't about him, it was about her fear of losing control. His proposal triggered a memory of her father's betrayal, and her superego screamed, "Run before you're trapped." Her silence was her ego's attempt to protect her from vulnerability. If you react to her quiet with desperation, you fail the test. But if you match her silence with your own, you shift the power. Why? Because a man who doesn't need her response is a man she can't manipulate. What's your move when she goes quiet? That choice defines you. She doesn't want your love. She wants your strength to anchor her chaos. Freud's genius wasn't in his theories. It was in his refusal to trust what people said about themselves. Women say they want kindness, equality, safety, but watch what they chase. In my career, I saw women leave stable men for ones who radiated danger, not because they were foolish, but because their ID craves a force stronger than their own turmoil. A woman I counseled left her gentle boyfriend for a man who barely spoke to her. Why? The quiet man's presence was a gravitational pull. Her boyfriend's devotion felt like quicksand. Her unconscious wasn't looking for a partner, it was looking for a pillar. When she flirts, teases, then retreats, she's not playing games, she's probing. Can you hold her storm without drowning? Your job isn't to fix her chaos or to outsmart it, it's to be the one thing she can't shake. Ask yourself, are you a man she can lean into, or one she can push over? Her biology will always choose the former, even if her words deny it. The man who wins isn't the one she loves, it's the one she can't control. I've sat across from criminals who thought they could outsmart me, but the ones who broke were the ones who needed my approval. Women are no different. Her tests, her distance, her emotional spikes, they're all designed to see if you'll bend. If you chase her validation, you've already lost. I remember a case where a man was destroyed by his wife's affairs. He kept trying to win her back with apologies, gifts, tears, but each gesture made her despise him more. Why? Because her unconscious didn't want his weakness, it wanted his dominance. Freud called this the power of the ID. It seeks what the ego fears. When you refuse to play her game, when you hold your ground without reacting to her chaos, you become a force she can't ignore, not because you're cruel, but because you're certain. What happens when you stop seeking her approval? You force her to confront her own desires, and that's a power no manipulation can touch. Her chaos isn't your enemy, it's your teacher. In my years as a detective, I learned that chaos reveals more than order ever could. A suspect's unraveling under pressure showed me their truth. A woman's emotional storms do the same. When she swings from warmth to ice, from seduction to silence, she's not trying to destroy you, she's showing you her fault lines. Her chaos is a map to her unconscious, drawn by the wounds she can't name. I once counseled a man whose girlfriend would erupt over nothing late texts, a casual glance at another woman. He thought she was irrational, but when we traced her patterns, we found a mother who abandoned her and a father who demanded perfection. Her outbursts weren't about him, they were echoes of a child fighting to be seen. When she pushes you, she's not testing your patience, she's testing whether you can hold space for her pain without breaking. Can you see her chaos as a signal, not a sentence? If you learn to read it, you'll stop fighting her and start understanding her. You're not her savior, you're her mirror. Men fall into the trap of thinking they can fix a woman's pain, as if her wounds are a puzzle you can solve. Freud knew better. He saw that the unconscious doesn't want rescue, it wants recognition. When she pulls away or lashes out, she's not asking you to save her, she's asking you to reflect her reality without flinching. I worked a case where a man spent years trying to heal his wife's insecurity, showering her with compliments, loyalty, promises. But the more he tried, the more she distrusted him. Why? Because her unconscious wasn't looking for a knight, it was looking for a man who could stand in her doubt and not blink. Her insecurity wasn't his to fix, it was hers to face, and his role was to mirror her strength back to her, not to carry it for her. Stop trying to solve her. Ask yourself, can you reflect her truth, her power, her fear, her chaos without absorbing it? That's the man she'll trust, not the one who tries to play hero. Her tests are a language, learn to speak it. In interrogation rooms, I never took a suspect's words at face value. Every deflection, every lie, was a code I had to crack. Women test men the same way, not to hurt you, but to speak what they can't say out loud. When she questions your strength, ignores your effort, or provokes your anger, she's not rejecting you, she's asking, can you handle me? I saw this in a case where a woman constantly challenged her boyfriend's decisions, mocking his career, his plans, his resolve. He thought she hated him, but when I spoke to her, her tests weren't about contempt, they were about fear. She'd grown up with a father who folded under pressure, and her unconscious was screaming, prove you're different. Her provocations were a plea, show me you're stronger than my doubts. When you react with anger or insecurity, you fail her test. But when you respond with calm certainty, you speak her language. What's your answer when she pushes? That's the conversation she's really having with you. The man who knows himself is her greatest fear and her deepest desire. Freud taught us that the unconscious is drawn to what it can't control, even as it fights it. A woman's superego might scream that she wants a predictable man, one who Fits her checklist: safe, agreeable, tame. But her ID, her primal core, hungers for a man who stands outside her grasp, unshaken by her games. I once advised a man whose wife left him for being too controlling. But when we dug deeper, her complaint wasn't about his strength, it was about his insecurity. He controlled out of fear, not power, and her unconscious could smell the difference. A man who knows himself doesn't need to control her, because he's already mastered his own chaos. He doesn't chase her approval or flinch at her rejection. His presence alone demands respect, not because he's loud, but because he's certain. When you embody that, her tests become irrelevant. Why? Because a woman can't manipulate a man who's already whole. What part of you is still begging for her validation? Cut it out and watch how her chaos bends to your calm. Her loyalty isn't to you, it's to her survival. In my years cracking open human motives, I learned that loyalty isn't a promise, it's a strategy. A woman's allegiance isn't tied to your love or your sacrifices, it's tied to what her unconscious believes will keep her safe. History proves it. Women in conquered tribes didn't stay loyal to the fallen. They aligned with the victors, not out of betrayal, but biology. I saw this in a case where a woman swore devotion to her husband, yet left him when a wealthier man appeared. She didn't love the new guy, she loved the security his power signaled. Her unconscious wasn't calculating, it was primal. When she pulls away or tests your commitment, she's not doubting your heart, she's scanning for weakness. Can you protect her from the world's chaos? Can you anchor her when her own mind betrays her? If you falter, her loyalty shifts not because she's cruel, but because her survival demands it. Ask yourself, are you a man she can rely on, or one she has to manage? Her answer isn't personal, it's instinct. Your reaction to her games reveals your wounds. Every interrogation I conducted was a mirror. Suspects didn't just reveal their crimes, they revealed themselves. When a woman plays hot and cold, flirts then withdraws, or cuts you with words, your response isn't about her, it's about you. A man who chases her validation or explodes in anger is showing the world his unhealed scars. I worked with a client who lost his temper every time his girlfriend ignored him. He thought he was defending his pride, but he was exposing his boyhood fear of being unseen. Freud called this repetition compulsion. We reenact the pain we haven't resolved. Her games trigger your old wounds, maybe a mother's rejection, a father's absence, and you react, thinking you're fighting for her. You're not. You're fighting the ghost of your past. Next time she tests you, pause. What's stirring in your chest? That's not her voice, it's yours, screaming from a place you haven't faced. Master that, and her games lose their power. She doesn't want to be understood, she wants to be seen. Freud dug into the unconscious to find what people hide, even from themselves. Women don't crave your analysis or your solutions. They crave your presence. When she shares her fears, her chaos, her contradictions, she's not asking you to fix her, she's asking you to witness her without blinking. I once advised a man whose wife complained he never got her. He'd try to solve her problems, dissect her emotions, but she grew colder. When we explored her past to childhood, where her feelings were dismissed, it was clear. She didn't need his logic, she needed his attention. Her unconscious was begging for a man who could sit in her storm and not run. When you listen without fixing, when you hold space without judging, you give her what her ID seeks, a presence stronger than her fear. Stop trying to decode her. Ask yourself, can you see her chaos and stay steady? That's the gift she's been chasing her whole life. Her beauty is a mask, but her chaos is the truth. In my decades as a detective, I learned that appearances lie louder than words. A woman's smile, her curves, her charm, their tools, honed by evolution to draw you in. But it's her chaos, her contradictions, her unpredictable swings, that reveal who she is. I once worked a case where a man was mesmerized by a woman's beauty, blind to her patterns of manipulation. He thought her allure was her essence, but her real self showed up in the moments she unraveled when she lashed out, withdrew, or tested his limits. Freud knew this. The unconscious doesn't hide in perfection. It leaks through the cracks. Her beauty pulls you close, but her chaos shows you what you're really signing up for. When she dazzles you, don't be fooled. Ask yourself, can you handle the storm behind the shine? If you can't, you're not in love, you're in a trance. The man who sees her truth isn't swayed by her mask, and that's what makes him untouchable. Your power lies in what you refuse to chase. Interrogation taught me that the one who controls the room isn't the loudest, it's the one who doesn't need to speak. When a woman withholds her attention, flirts with others, or dangles her affection just out of reach, she's baiting you to pursue. Most men bite, thinking the chase proves their worth. But Freud would tell you that chasing is surrender. It hands her your power on a platter. I saw this in a client who spent months trying to win back a woman who kept him at arm's length. Every text he sent, every gesture he made, only deepened her control. Why? Because his pursuit told her unconscious he was weaker than her chaos. The man who refuses to chase, whose silence says, "I don't need your validation," flips the script. He becomes the gravity she orbits. What are you chasing when she pulls away? Stop running and watch how her game changes when you're no longer playing. She's not your destiny, she's your mirror to growth. Men romanticize women as the answer to their emptiness, but Freud saw through that illusion. The woman who captivates you isn't your fate. She's a reflection of the work you haven't done. Her chaos, her tests, her pull, they're not obstacles. They're invitations to confront your own unresolved pain. I counseled a man obsessed with a woman who alternated between adoration and cruelty. He thought she was his soulmate, but her behavior was a mirror to his childhood abandonment. Each time she withdrew, he chased harder, reenacting a boy's desperate need for love. The truth? She wasn't his destiny, she was his lesson. When you stop seeing her as the solution and start seeing her as a signal, you shift. You don't need to fix her or win her. You need to face the part of you that thinks she's the key. What does her chaos stir in you? That's not her calling, it's yours, pointing you toward the man you're meant to become. Her desire for you is a shadow of her fear of losing herself. Freud peeled back the layers of the unconscious to show us that desire and fear are two sides of the same coin. When a woman seems to crave you, her eyes linger, her voice softens, her body leans closer. It's not just attraction, it's her ID wrestling with the terror of surrender. I once interrogated a woman who left a trail of broken men, each one convinced she loved them. But her pattern wasn't love, it was fear. Her childhood taught her that giving herself fully meant losing control. So she'd pull men in just to push them away. Her desire was real, but it was shadowed by a deeper dread. If I let him in, who will I become? When she flirts, then freezes, she's not playing you, she's protecting the fragile self her unconscious guards. Don't mistake her hunger for devotion. Ask yourself, are you feeding her desire or her fear? The man who sees the difference holds the key to her truth without being consumed by it. Your stillness is the weapon she can't fight. In my years breaking down suspects, I learned that silence cuts deeper than words. A man who reacts to a woman's chaos, her taunts, her silence, her tests, hands her the reins. But a man who stays still, who lets her storm rage without blinking, becomes untouchable. I advised a man whose girlfriend would provoke him with subtle jabs, questioning his strength, flirting with others in his presence. He'd argue, defend, chase until I told him to stop. The next time she tested him, he said nothing, just held her gaze with quiet certainty. She crumbled, not because he won an argument, but because his stillness forced her to face her own tactics. Freud knew the unconscious respects what it can't move. Your calm isn't passivity, it's power. When she pushes, what's your response? If it's silence rooted in self-mastery, you've already won the war she didn't know she was fighting. The man who leaves her chaos behind builds his own kingdom. Freud taught us that true power comes from sublimating our instincts, not suppressing them. When you're caught in a woman's emotional web, her tests, her distance, her allure, your instinct is to fight for her, to prove you're enough. But that's a trap. The real victory is walking away, not with anger, but with purpose. I saw this in a case where a man spent years chasing a woman who dangled affection like a carrot. He thought winning her would complete him. But when he finally let go, redirecting his energy to his work, his body, his vision, he became a force. She came back, not because he begged, but because he'd built something she couldn't ignore, a life that didn't revolve around her. Your job isn't to conquer her chaos, it's to create a world so solid she wants to step into it. What are you building while she plays her games? That's the question that defines your legacy. Her chaos seeks your clarity, not your compromise. In my time as a detective, I saw how people's unraveling begged for someone to hold the line, someone who wouldn't bend under pressure. A woman's emotional storms are to call for you. To join her confusion, they're a plea for your certainty. I once worked with a man whose partner would spiral into arguments, accusing him of not caring enough. He'd try to appease her, softening his edges to keep the peace. But each compromise only fueled her chaos. Why? Because her unconscious wasn't looking for agreement, it was looking for a rock to crash against. Freud saw this in its hunger for structure, not sympathy. When she rages or retreats, she's not asking you to fix her feelings. She's testing if your clarity can outlast her storm. Can you stand firm without losing yourself in her noise? If you compromise your truth to calm her, you both lose. Offer her your strength instead, and watch her chaos find its anchor. You don't heal her, you outgrow her games. Freud's insight was brutal. We repeat what we don't resolve. A woman's tests, her push-pull, her emotional traps, they're not personal. They're her unconscious replaying old scripts. But you don't have to be a character in her drama. I counseled a man who was drained by his girlfriend's constant need for reassurance. He thought loving her meant absorbing her insecurity, but it only deepened her demands. When he started focusing on his own growth, his career, his discipline, his purpose, she didn't magically change, but he did. He outgrew the need to play her savior. Her games lost their grip because he was no longer the boy seeking approval. Your job isn't to heal her wounds. It's to rise above the patterns that keep you both stuck. What's the cost of staying in her cycle? The man who grows beyond it doesn't just escape, he becomes the standard she measures others against. Your legacy is the man you choose to be, not the woman you win. In interrogation rooms, I learned that real power isn't in controlling others, it's in mastering yourself. A woman's chaos, her tests, her allure, they're all mirrors reflecting your own unresolved battles. But the moment you choose yourself over her games, you step into something greater. I saw this in a client who walked away from a woman who dangled love, but delivered pain. He didn't curse her or chase her. He built a life so strong that her absence became irrelevant. Freud called this sublimation, taking your raw instincts, your hunger, your pain, your need, and forging them into purpose. You don't need her validation to feel whole. You don't need her chaos to feel alive. You need only the courage to walk your path, alone if you must, until your presence commands respect. Who are you when her mirror fades? That's the man who doesn't just win, he transcends. So stop chasing her, stop fixing her, stop waiting for her to see you. Disappear into your own becoming, with a quiet, sacred stillness, because the greatest power isn't in holding her, it's in holding yourself. Her need for control is her cry for surrender. In my years dissecting human behavior, I learned that control is often a mask for vulnerability. A woman's need to dominate the dynamic through silence, tests, or emotional manipulation isn't about power, it's about fear of letting go. I once worked with a woman who orchestrated every moment of her relationship, from when her partner could call to what he could say. She thought she was strong, but her control was a shield against the terror of being truly seen. Freud's insight was clear. The unconscious fights hardest when it's closest to surrender. When she tries to control you, she's not rejecting your strength, she's begging for it to be unshakable. Her ID craves a man who can take the reins without breaking her spirit. Don't fight her control, meet it with a presence so steady she feels safe to release it. Ask yourself, can you be the man who makes her control obsolete? If you can, her walls will crumble, not because you forced them, but because you made them unnecessary. Your past is her weapon until you disarm it. Freud knew that our unresolved wounds are magnets for pain, drawing us to people who reopen them. A woman's chaos, her sudden distance, her cutting words, her unpredictable shifts becomes a blade only if you hand her your history. I saw this in a client who fell apart every time his girlfriend criticized him. Her words weren't just about him, they echoed his father's constant disapproval. Each jab she threw landed because he was still fighting a boyhood battle. When he faced that wound, her attacks lost their sting not because she changed, but because he did. Your unhealed pain is the leverage she uses, consciously or not, to keep you tethered. Disarm it by confronting the shadows you've carried since childhood. What old wound does her behavior trigger? Heal that, and her chaos becomes noise, not a noose. The man who owns his past is the one she can't unbalance. You're not here to win her, you're here to claim your own soul. In interrogation, I learned that the real victory isn't in breaking someone else. It's in knowing yourself so deeply no one can shake you. A woman's tests, her beauty, her chaos, their distractions from the real battle, the one within. I counseled a man who spent years chasing a woman who gave him just enough to keep him hooked. He thought she was his purpose, but she was his mirror, reflecting a void he hadn't filled. Freud's concept of sublimation is your way out. Take the energy you pour into her, your longing, your frustration, your need, and redirect it into forging your own path. Build a life so rooted in purpose that her presence or absence becomes irrelevant. When you claim your soul, you don't need her approval or her chaos. What's the man you're becoming worth? That's the question that frees you, not from her, but from the part of you that ever needed her to. Feel whole,